What up, it's your buddy Incredible Man, and yes, I am back at it again, and this is New Amsterdam Season 3, Episode 12, and finally, we're not dealing with any kind of social injustice or anything like that. We're getting back to the root and the heart of New Amsterdam, and I gotta say, this was an episode. Let's talk about it, man. I don't dislike the episodes of the social injustice part. I loved all of those. They were highlighting something that was very important in this country and relevant in today's times. So I loved all of those, and like they were right on it. And I love New Amsterdam for highlighting those episodes. But this episode got back to the roots and got back to what we love about New Amsterdam. And I'm not mad. I loved it so much, man. It was so good. Now, there was a lot of stuff in this episode, so let's just break it down, and then we'll talk about that one huge moment that I enjoyed the most, and I feel like everybody else really did as well. Now, this episode, we see that we start with Iggy and his husband, and they're at home, and we see that his husband pulls out the hat that Iggy took from Chance and tried to hide it. Now, Iggy was trying to deal with the whole Chance situation by not really dealing with it because he felt like it wouldn't hurt Chance, and it wouldn't really create a problem with Chance in their family. Now, his husband, on the other hand, didn't feel that type of way. His husband felt like, well, we need to get a restraining order. We need to do something to let him know that we're not playing with him. And Iggy was like, well, I don't want to hurt Chance. And his husband like, screw Chance. And then he ended up talking to a lawyer that works at the hospital. And the lawyer was like, you want to protect Chance? What? So like everybody was looking at Iggy all weird because he was trying to protect Chance in this, but I feel like Iggy had an insight that nobody else really had, and that is because everybody wanted him to do this restraining order, and Iggy felt like if doing this restraining order, it would feel like Chance would have that connection that he always wanted with Iggy, because we now know he's fascinated with Iggy, and Iggy didn't want to give him that restraining order because that would kind of like increase his fascination with Iggy. Now, Iggy was the only one to realize this and see this, and at the end of the episode, we see that came true, because once he saw the restraining order, he saw Iggy's name on the paper and saw his name, and he's infatuated with his name being next to Iggy's in that situation. So now, the situation that Iggy tried to avoid the entire time, but didn't because he listened to other people, it's coming back to bite him in the butt. And it's sad because had he listened to his gut, I know he was just trying to please his husband, but had he listened to his gut, this wouldn't have happened. But we also see that the episode that we're dealing with, we see that Iggy is talking to the parents of some of the kids that's at the hospital. Now, I feel like the whole entire situation in that moment where he's trying to hype up the parents to go see their kids in a mental hospital, I felt like that kind of tied into Iggy's situation as well, just a tad, because I felt like it was the same thing he was doing with Chance. It's like he was trying to not really acknowledge that there was a problem. Like, you know, like these parents are here to see their kids in a mental hospital. And what I loved about this episode is because it highlighted that the parents are feeling some things as well. Now, I know a lot of times that in situations like this in other TV shows and stuff, like they don't really highlight what the parents are going through when they have to deal with a kid that has psychotic episodes, psychotic breaks, other mental faculties that's going on. Like they don't really deal with the parents. They just deal with the kid and the situation and everything. And we never really focus on the parents. And we see that this episode with Iggy talking to the other kids' mothers, and we see that both of them have their whole problem going on with the son, but the son kind of, I guess you say he can feel it or reads the tension coming from the one mother that's super positive all the time because she doesn't want to acknowledge the fact. Like it kind of, you see how I'm saying, it kind of tied into Iggy's whole story this episode, to kind of acknowledge the fact that her son has a problem, which is ODD. Now, what I liked about it, because after they kind of sat down and had this whole talk, if you will, Iggy and the two mothers, they had a group section with all of the other parents, and everybody's in there kind of just breaking down like, well, I don't want to, but sometimes when my kid acts out or does this because of their mental faculties, I hate my kid. I don't want to be that type of parent, but I just hate my kid. And that's so sad because, like I mentioned, we never really focus on the parents and what they're going through. And we see that all of these parents feel some type of way. All of them are hurt and heartbroken because, for one, they can't be there for their kids. They can't help their kids. And they have to go see their kids in the mental hospital. And there's just so many situations revolving around their kids. And I feel like at the end of the episode, everybody kind of got that just a little bit of peace and a little bit of closure. But I like how it kind of tied into Iggy's story as well. Now, in the ED, we see that Bloom is dealing with a bunch of patients coming in, and Casey's talking about leaving, going to Mount Zion. Now, at the end of the episode, we see that Casey decided not to go. I am all kinds of glad and excited that Casey decided not to go. I love Casey. We don't see a lot of him, but he's always right there with Bloom when something's popping off or something's happening. So I love seeing Casey, and I didn't want him to go. But so like some patient starts coming in, and this lady comes in with shears stuck in her gut, and the lady. I love this lady, by the way. We see that she has the shears in there, and Bloom's like, "Well, ma'am, how much pain are you in?" This amount with the shears stuck in my gut. But while she's checking her out and everything, boom, bam, the ceiling falls in and leaks, and there's a bunch of water. And I thought it was just regular water, and Bloom thought so as well. It was just like maybe like a pipe burst, but that wasn't the case. It was a chemical spill. And we see that a bunch of these people in the ER starting to get this rash from this chemical being leaked, and people are coughing, because it's toxic. And next thing you know, I love how Bloom done it. She went to talk to Casey, and she just like casually walked over to Casey and was like, "This isn't dirty water. It's a chemical spill. So evacuate the ED." She didn't want to cause a panic. She done it all nice and smooth. I love the way Bloom handled it. But it's a chemical spill, and now it ended up getting on the lady with the garden shears and everybody that was in the ER. Now, well, ED. Well, ER, whatever. Now with this, we see that Bloom got splashed with the water, just like the lady and a bunch of the other people ended up getting contaminated as well. Now, the only thing I hated about this episode is something that Bloom done, which is done in pretty much almost any other show or something like this when it comes to a doctor or a police officer or anything or something like this, somebody that's helping somebody. They always tend to, well, we need to help these people first. Bloom was contaminated just like everybody else, but she decided not to get treatment. She let all these patients get treatments first. But what I love the fact that, in my ED, patients come first. I love that. But at the same time, her not being doused in the chemical shower or whatever, being cleansed, allowed her to be continually to be contaminated throughout this entire episode. And you can't help someone if you're contaminated and you're going blind and you're passing out and you have this rash. You can't help the people in your ED if you're like this. So, well, ER, I don't know why I'm saying ED, but anyway, I love the concept with her mind where she was like, well, the patients come first. That's a wonderful concept, but you can't help people if you don't handle it yourself. Now, at the end of the episode, we see that, she started to pass out and she started to go blind a little bit. But this one dude came in on a bike accident and everything, and he ended up with a huge blood clot, like in his throat. And Bloom had to help this dude while basically blind. Let's be 100%. It was flashes where she could see here and there, but she basically had to feel it and then take it and inject it and pull it out. And I got to give Bloom her credit for that, because whether she almost killed this dude or not, the fact that she was able to do it while blind, that speaks volumes, man. Let's give Bloom a huge credit for that. But I just didn't like the fact that, she decided to let all these patients go and her not be treated, and that led up to the situation that she was in towards the end of the episode. But at the end of the episode, we see that everything worked out fine for her, and she ended up having a huge connection moment with Casey, and Casey was like, well, I'm not going to go to Mount Zion. I'm going to stay here with you. So I love that. Casey's going to stay. I'm loving it. Now, let's talk about Reynolds, because Reynolds this episode is having this whole moment with the OGBYN head lady, and I didn't love the fact that they were pushing them together, because she mentioned that she was married, but at the same time, she seems to be flirting with Reynolds. I did not love that, because Reynolds is the guy, man. You can't be messing with Reynolds like that. And for them to have that whole situation play out like that, I wasn't really feeling it. And she was like, well, we're going to go for drinks. And they were having these whole conversations, walking down the hallway with each other, laughing and cutting up. Like, dude, we know she's married, and I'm pretty sure people in the hospital know that she's married too. So why are they having them do this? And then at the end of the episode, we see that they both went out for drinks, and she ended up inviting Reynolds to her house to tell her that, well, me and my husband have this whole thing that when he out of town or when I'm out of town, we could do whatever we want with whoever we want. And then she says she's never done it before. And I'm inclined to believe her. But the fact that you offered it up because you was feeling this vibe with Reynolds, I mean, to each his own. Like if that's what you and your husband have, I mean, that's cool. I mean, if that's what y'all got going on, that's cool. But at the same time, you didn't know how Reynolds would feel like that. And I love the fact that Reynolds stood up and was like, that, hey, this ain't for me. This is not for me. I'm not the one to come. Because you never know, man, how situations like that may turn out. Sure, your husband may say he's cool with something like that, but then next thing you know, oh, he's jealous, and then I'm fighting your husband's fighting me, your husband started to shoot me, somebody stabbing somebody, stalking somebody. There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong in situations like that, so it's best to avoid it. But Reynolds decided to take her out for a drink, and I feel like they can still be friends, but there will never be a relationship because that's not the type of person Reynolds is, and I got to give him huge credit and huge shout out for that. Now, with all of that on the other side of the table, on the other side of the door, let's leave that alone because now we are here for what I love the most. Max and Sharp, man, oh my God, we were there to the point, oh my gosh. Max is trying to find the root of the chemical spill and what's causing it. He starts busting up walls in the hospital, and there's a bunch of pipes that's leaking it. So he finds the pipes, and he ends up getting to like an old wing of the hospital, and it's this huge tanker, and the tanker is leaking. And without thinking, Max rushes in to wrap up the whole thing with his sweatshirt. Still didn't realize why he done it like that. I mean, you had just found it, so like you should have called somebody and then you could have went in and kind of wrapped it up a little bit, but he didn't think about that. He wrapped it up, and next thing you know, the pipe's starting to leak a little bit more, and Max is super exposed, and by the time Sharp finds him, he's completely blind, and it's messing with him physically. So Sharp gets him down to the decontamination place, and her heart's about to break, my heart's about to break, and I'm pretty sure you guys' heart is about to break the same way when we find out that Max is going through the situation like this and he's blind. But in that moment, after she saved him, when we see that they are in the decontamination shower together, and like we see her looking at Max, and we see Max all dazed and confused, and we see Sharp just looking at Max, and she's stripping him and she's holding him because he's about to pass out. I felt some type of way, man. I don't know. I knew they weren't going to kill him. I knew that was for sure, and I knew he was going to be fixed because we saw the lady be fixed and everything, and everybody else was starting to recuperate. So we knew Max was going to be fine. He's one of the main stars of the show, so we knew he was going to be fine. But just to have that connection, man, oh my gosh! Because we see earlier in the episode, Sharp is, she's dealing with her own personal things, and Max is dealing with his own personal things because Luna's grandparents came to visit, and I'm assuming they're not happy with the way Max is raising Luna. But anyway, we see that both of them are dealing with their own personal situations. So for them to have that moment and that connection, boy, I loved it. Then we see that Max starts to wake up, starts to recuperate and come around, and Sharp asks him, can he see? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I can see you. And he was like, I kind of remember, but then next thing you know, I remember seeing the tanker and everything just goes blank. But he was like, you were there. You were there. Yeah, she was, buddy. She was there. She was there so much. Oh my gosh. And we see that moment to where Max is really like, I apologize to you that like sometimes it takes me a while to see certain things. But I see you. I see you. I see you. I see y'all. Now, that whole connection that they had, and like Max was like touching her, man, and I was like, yes, man. Oh, we're gonna get it. And then They get this close yet again. Every time we get close, somebody always does something to interrupt it. We get so close, and the phone call comes, and Max's, Luna's grandparents call Max and tell him that they're going to take Luna because Max almost died. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, that's right. Max needs to rest a little bit, recuperate. He'll probably be in the hospital for a day or two. So them taking Luna is fine. And we see that she tells Max that they're filing for full custody. On what grounds? Oh my gosh. Now that part is the only part about this entire episode that I hated. That is the only part that I hated. They decide to take they're going to, first of all, they kidnapped Luna for one. Max is injured and at work. They kidnapped her. Grandparents are not. Like they took her from her home without his approval. Whether they're grandparents or not, that's kidnapping, right? I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I'm not totally sure, but I feel like that's kidnapping. And then telling them they're going to sue for full custody. Oh my gosh. Just because he had her eating lo mein for breakfast. Hey, it's breakfast. She could be one of those thousands of kids in the world or millions that aren't eating, and you're going to complain about her eating lo mein? It's breakfast. But I don't know, man. That's the only part that upset me about the entire episode. But the fact that we were so close, man, we were so close with Max and Sharp, and then boom, bam, it ends. Now, we won't return until, I think it's June 1st. So we're going to take a little mini break, and we won't see anything until June 1st. But you guys know it, that I'm going to be there for June 1st, because things are getting real, man. And I feel like by the end of this season, we're going to get that kiss between Sharp and Max for sure. 100%. This is what incredible, man. Don't forget to smash the like button so you can't smash any more. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them and subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. Peace out.